The Benjamin Dixon Show is only possible with listener support. Go to www.thebenjamindixonshow.com to register for our blog and join the Progressive Army. And now, ladies and gentlemen,
we are now about to witness the truth.
It's the Benjamin Dixon Show.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Benjamin Dixon Show. I'm your host, Benjamin Dixon. It is Monday, December 7th, 2015. Thank you so much for joining us. You could have been anywhere in the world today, but you decided to be here with us, and I am grateful for that. We want to go, a lot happening in the news. Of course, today is, how many years since Pearl Harbor? But today we commemorate Pearl Harbor, and it almost as a twisted sense of irony, we have Donald Trump suggesting, on a day like today, we have Donald Trump suggesting that we should ban all Muslims from America, immigrating to America. It doesn't, nothing surprises me anymore about Donald Trump. Nothing. And I want to read the whole statement to you so that you can hear it and see it for yourself. This is pretty much happening this afternoon. But like I said, it doesn't surprise me. Trump no longer surprises me because he is a caricature of a human being. He knows exactly what he's doing in terms of what he's saying and the emotions that he's eliciting from his base. He knows exactly what he's doing. So Trump doesn't surprise me. Trump doesn't scare me. What scares me is that there's so many people who actually buy into this and think that Donald Trump is a viable president of the United States. It's one thing to have ideological differences, political differences, and there's nothing that President Obama could do that's right for conservatives. But it's another thing when you say the alternate, the person that we want, the person that we think is the right choice for America is a guy who would say, not only should we ban all Muslims, but perhaps we need to shut, and I have to find this quote, this one I saw, but I have to get the reference for it. I think it's the same, might be the same source, but that we should perhaps shut some of the internet down in order to get a grip on what's happening. Matter of fact, let me just read it for you. I'll put it on the screen over here for those of you on YouTube. Donald J. Trump is calling for a total and complete shutdown of all of Muslims entering the United States until our country's representatives can figure out what is going on. According to Pew Research, among others, there's a great hatred towards America by large segments of the Muslim population. Most recently, a poll from the Center, blah, 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 gives some stats. Mr. Trump stated, without looking at the various polling data, it is obvious to anybody the hatred is beyond comprehension. Where this hatred comes from and why we will have to determine. Until we're able to determine and understand this problem and the dangerous threat it poses, our country cannot be the victims of horrendous attacks by people that believe only in jihad and have no sense of reason or respect for human life. If I win the election for president, we are going to make America great again. This is the front runner. This is the front runner of the Republican Party. This is the bastard child creation of the Republican Party. This is what they've created. This is only possible. A candidate like Donald Trump is only possible because the Republican Party for over 50 years, give or take between 40 and 50 years, have played incessantly to the racist base, the xenophobic base, the nationalistic base. They have played to it, but they were able, and we discussed this ad nauseum over the summer. They were able to keep the crazies at bay and keep them outside of the mainstream for 40 years. They were able to keep their religious crazies out on the margins where you could get their vote, but they would not be the official face of the party. And finally, a character comes along like Donald J. Trump, who represents exactly what the Republican Party is right now. There's no way He could be leading in the polls right now if he did not represent a great majority of Republicans. So he is a creature of their own doing. It is not possible for Donald Trump to be 30%, polling around 30+% amongst registered conservative Republicans who are going to vote in the primaries. He's gaining traction. Now, here's the other thing that's disturbing about this. He is not going to go down in the polls because of this. He's going to go up in the polls. That's how this has worked for Donald Trump. The more ridiculous and asinine things he says, the more his sycophants love him. It's like there's nothing that he can say or do that is that is worthy of, I don't know, of his supporters saying, okay, enough's enough. And I don't know if that's an American thing. I don't know if that's human nature. I don't know what it is, but they are so dedicated. And then you had those two sisters, and I use that term loosely. Those girls, the Trump girls or whatever their names are, getting on stage, and he's saying, "Do a little routine for me. Do a little routine for me." And they get up there with their step and fetch, coonery, buffoonery. You know, I don't even know what they were saying. Basically, just being loud and being as ignorant as Donald Trump needs people to be. And here's the thing. It's not just because it's Donald Trump. And actually, let me reverse that. It's not just because they're being idiots for Republicans. It's because they've gone to the absolute worst. At this point, I would be okay if everybody flocked to Marco Rubio. At least Marco Rubio is about as establishment, and he's status quo. He is not going to get out there and excommunicate Muslims, right? He's just going to gut the economy and, cut taxes, gut our coffers. He's going to do everything financially possible, fiscally possible to stranglehold the government, right? But you have Donald Trump, who is going to play the same economic game as any other Republican, but now he is rolling back the clock on any social progress we have. And in the midst of all this, people look at us who are criticizing Donald Trump, criticizing Fox News, criticizing this type of propaganda and this type of rhetoric. They're looking at us and saying, you're just politically correct. I mean, do you understand this hermetically sealed bubble that conservatism now operates in, where it's a series of bias confirming media outlets, along with the relentless propaganda that politicians are now openly engaging in, blatant lies, all to protect them from ever considering the reality that maybe policy A is not a good policy. Maybe policy B proposed by conservatives is really not that good of a policy. But for them, everything is either absolute conservatism or it's the liberal media trying to pull a fast one on you. And you're trying to be politically correct. Let me unpack that politically incorrect thing again. Let me do it. I realized that the people who are shouting, stop being, you're politically correct, you're trying to make us politically correct, I realize that those people are really cowards. They're really afraid of us calling them on their bigotry, right? They want Donald Trump and they want themselves to be able to run with impunity, to say anything they want to say without anyone calling them on it. Because let's be real, all of their rhetoric, out of everything every Republican and conservative has ever said against blacks, against Islam, against LGBTQ, against women, against every group that they decide to hate that week, all of their rhetoric does nothing in terms of policy. So talking tough doesn't do anything. They just want to be able to say whatever they want to say and don't want you or me to be able to call them on their bigotry. And so they say, stop being politically correct. Well, now that we've stopped being politically correct, now we have a front runner presidential candidate who says that maybe we should, not even maybe, he says if he's president, we're going to refuse all Muslim immigrants. Not just Syrian immigrants at this point. He said he had to one up the ante. He had to go one step further because the you want to block Syria. Chris Christie, you want to block 3-year-old orphans. How about this? I just want to block every Muslim. How are you going to pull this off? Are we going to do religious tests right at the airports, right at the customs before anybody comes in? I don't even know why I asked that question, because he never goes far enough to even consider the implications of his policies or the feasibility of his policies ever. But that's Donald J. Trump. That's your Republican conservative frontrunner. All right, let's see what's going on over here. Interesting. I'm not seeing any chat going on the YouTube end, so I don't know if they're having a malfunction on the YouTube end, but we'll figure it out. So guys, if you want to join the conversation and if there's not a chat going on, tweet me at the BPD show. Tweet me at the BPD show, and we'll see what's going on. Unfortunately, it looks like YouTube is having a problem with the chat window. Thanks a lot, YouTube. Blame Obama. So that's. There's so much to say about that. There's so much that should be said about that. But I mean, where do you even start? Because this is consistently Donald Trump. This is not a surprise. This is actually quite par for the course for Donald Trump. The only thing that's surprising is that, well, actually, this is not surprising anymore either, that he's going to consistently go up in the polls because of this, right? This is not something that's going to damage him. And now that the White House and some members of Congress have come out since he said this afternoon, they've come out and repudiated him. They've come out and they're in lockstep condemning him. It's just going to make him more of a martyr. It's going to make him more of a hero to those conservatives who feel like the rest of the world is just trying to be politically correct. And they're afraid of saying what needs to be said. And Donald Trump is the guy who's going to say what needs to be said. Caller, you're live on the air. What's your name, comment, and or question?
Hey, Ben, this is Patrick. First and foremost, the Progressive Army they are on YouTube and they are chatting it up.
Okay, great.
So
I just can't see it.
I don't know why
end.
you can't see it. Right.
Awesome.
So that's the first thing.
Thanks.
Number two, I think you hit it on the head that Donald Trump doesn't think through what he's saying.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't think about all of the ramifications of it. And because we're in a untraditional political season, there is no ramifications for him ratcheting everything up. So he can ratchet it up and it doesn't. But the biggest problem is that in this country, which is so great, it is now postured itself under fear.
Mm-hmm.
People are scared, man. And instead of the encouragement, the need for being tough on terrorism without being crazy on some of the folks that are doing it, I think that's where we are right now as a country. And I think when you see those folks at that rally, he doesn't have to conjure them up. Those people are scared. They are, and like you said, this is years and years of baiting that has been put out there that this was going to come to pass.
Right.
And now, to go back to one of your favorite Jeremiah Wright thoughts,
chickens come home to roost.
Have come home to roost.
Yes, sir. Absolutely. I have to agree with you. This is their own doing. And if it destroys, hey, Patrick, thanks for the call. I'm gonna grab this next one. If it destroys the Republican Party, that's that's their fault, right? This is what they've done to themselves. If this destroys the Republican Party, this is only because this is what the Republican Party created. This is not possible without what Richard Nixon started. When Richard Nixon started using the Southern strategy, once the racist Democratic Party lost the South, right? We had this entire conversation for about 30 minutes last week. The Democratic Party pre-1964, pre-1968 was the party of the Confederate South. After the passage of the 1964 Civil Rights Act, the Democratic Party lost the South and has consistently lost the South since then, with the exception of Jimmy Carter, who is a son of the South from Atlanta, from Georgia, right? So every election after that, we lost the South. Richard Nixon put together a strategy to capitalize on this new block of voters that were introduced into the Republican Party that had never been there before. And that is the Southern strategy. So after 40, 50 years, I lost track of what year he actually started it, but about 40 to 50 years of consistent fear mongering, not just the Southern strategy. Patrick, you hit on something key. It's fear mongering also. And we'll unpack that in a minute. But that's the only way you get the possibility of a national politician who can say these types of things and still get more support the crazier he gets. This is because they have dumbed down. Yes, they have dumbed down their base so much. Not only have they dumbed down, they have desensitized a lot of their base, where you have people who are otherwise rational. They just happen to be conservative. They are now not able to see how ridiculously offensive and dangerous Donald Trump is. So now they've dumbed down one group, they've desensitized another group, and you have all of those people who are on the margin, all of those crazies now coming into the limelight and having their day. They're no longer shunned. Caller, you're live on the air. What's your name, comment, and a question?
Hey, Ben, it's Pedro.
Pedro, thanks so much for the call, man. What's on your mind?
No problem. Okay, so this is a subject I've touched on a couple of times, but we now have Donald Trump saying, let's, for the sake of safety, ban all Muslim immigrants. And in fact, I think I heard a detail that said even Muslim citizens of America that were currently out of the country,
right? Like
if they tried to come back, and he'd keep them out, according to a Trump spokesperson.
Mm-hmm.
So we have that because we know that there's a slight chance, the whole poison M&M analogy, there's a slight chance that some Muslims might be radical terrorists,
right?
But we won't do anything. We won't even have a conversation about gun laws.
Mm-hmm.
We're having people propose shutting down mosques or
right.
surveying mosques. But in Texas, when a governor proposed that idea, a war on religion. Look at that. So we're the conservative. Now, I don't want to say all conservatives, but the conservative front runners
mm-hmm.
For the presidential candidacy, they're literally espousing some sort of I guess the word is fascism. I'm not too big on these political words,
mm-hmm.
but it's where they're completely blind to the own atrocities that they're making,
right?
Because they're just going by popularity. They're trying to say the things that will rile up
exactly
a base, like inciting near violence or
right.
or just violations of constitutionality.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
They're just poking sticks at bears just to try to get them to run at them, and then just start a stampede of just senseless violations of freedom. And I don't understand how anyone rational can't see that.
You hit on this, Pedro. You hit on this at the very beginning. I thought you were going to steal my thunder, but you almost were there.
It's all yours, man. Take it away.
But you said it right. They are willing to violate every other right except for a terrorist
mm-hmm.
right to get their hands on a gun. That is the hypocrisy, right? I'm not necessarily a fan of the no-flies list in the first place because of how loose it is and how many rights it actually infringes on. But the fact that this is something that the Republican administration came up with, and if you're on it, you cannot fly, but you can still buy a gun. So we think you're dangerous enough to not fly, but we still want you to be able to buy a gun. Now, on the flip side, they're willing to violate your right to religion, to worship. They're willing to violate your right to come home, even if you're an American citizen. They're willing to violate your access to the internet. They're willing to violate all of these other things, but damn it, you can buy a gun. What kind of sense? What does that shows you their God, their real dedication is only to the NRA, because it's not even so much guns as it is their fear and their reverence for the NRA. When you can not fly in our country, but you can buy a gun in our country.
No shit, man.
Yeah.
And another thing, it's what I'm really afraid of is that, okay, if people like Donald Trump or Carly Fiorina or Ted Cruz get what they want in a sense, and make the people of the country so blind to the atrocities they're committing, to like then at one point then we pretty much become the monster that we hate, because so many of these like Middle Eastern states, like they kill indiscriminately, they kill for different reasons, they like imprison people for having different faiths or coming from a different nation, and it's just we can't get to a point where we're not allowed to criticize ourselves. But because the whole entire Republican Party, at least for the presidential race, seems to be operating on some sort of mob mentality where we can't infight, like they try to restrict it as much as possible, or say, no, that's wrong, that's misrepresenting our country or our views. Exactly. Then they're not able to not even tame a monster, but they're not even able to just call out, oh, wait, that's wrong.
Exactly.
You know, like I even think maybe one person, when Ben Carson said, no, I wouldn't I wouldn't be okay with a Muslim running for president. I think only one GOP candidate, I think that was Ted Cruz, I might be wrong.
No, I think it was Kasich. I think it was Kasich. Because he seems to be the only rational one there, and that's the problem, Pedro. The problem is that they are running in a mob mentality, just like you said, and they're afraid to do the right thing because they see their base wants this rabid hatred that they're spewing. That's what they want, and so that's what they give them all the time. Pedro, thanks so much for the call, man.
Appreciate it.
Guys, you can join the conversation, 857-600-0518. I hear you guys are having a great conversation in the chat room on YouTube. I can't get access to it. I've tried 3 different computers now, so I guess it's just giving me hell. But that's the other thing I wanted to unpack, was this fear. I don't know. I mean, me personally, I'm not afraid. I don't think I have cause to be terrified. I do think that there's danger every day I leave my home. I think that there's crazy stuff. If you just go out in public, you see crazy things that could really evolve into something really dangerous. I don't think Americans are as fearful as Republicans want and need us to be. Therefore, they're pounding the same fear drums that led us into the Iraq war in the first place, which broke the region even more than it was already broken, which created ISIS, which created the problem that we have now. They need us to be afraid. I just personally don't see, I'm not that afraid. I'm more, you know what worries me? What worries me is having 4 major powers in one small nation in the Middle East, in Syria. You know, you have Russia, you have Great Britain, you have France and the United States in one. That's what kind of worries me, because we're only like, we're maybe 1 mile away from accidentally shooting down a Russian fighter jet. That's what actually concerns me. I'm not sitting around fearful of Muslims on my subway. And that's what they want. That's where they need us to be. That's where Republicans absolutely need us to be in order to justify their ridiculous existence. Caller, you're live on the air. What's your name, comment, and or question?
Hey, man, it's Patrick Blowing from Myanmar.
Patrick, what's going on, man?
Just have a quick thing to say. I may slightly disagree with Paige and also with Patrick as well.
Okay, go for it.
On this point, because I'm hearing this on the news as well. it's almost like we're granting the Republicans a certain, I don't want to say immunity, that's the wrong word, but certain naivete, as if they're not aware of the ramifications of what they're saying, as if they're not aware of where this may lead. And I can tell you from being out there every day, registering folks to vote and wearing our Bernie shirts, we actually are approached by conservatives more often than actually by liberals, particularly older conservatives, like 50 plus, who just want to get into a debate with us. And what I'm realizing, they're very much aware of where these policies lead. They're not naive to it.
Right.
And I think, and I heard this in the media as well, after Trump made that announcement, I saw on MSNBC particularly, they're trying to find 50 alternative explanations of what he could possibly have meant by that, when it's very blatant,
very clear
what it means.
So you're saying
I don't want to
you're
give them
saying,
a pass because it's like,
exactly. You're saying this is not naivete, this is not ignorance, this is a very specific strategy that they're using.
Yes, and I'm afraid that because we want to hopefully appeal to their better angels and say, no, they can't possibly mean that, but they do. And I think the sooner we, not just the progressive army here on your show, but as soon as the media calls them out on this and says this is where they want to lead and ask them that and say that this is fascist ideology, it almost gives them the license to say, well, they don't actually know any better. I just want to caution us from going down that road.
Yeah, I could agree. I definitely agree with that, Patrick. Thanks so much for that call, man.
No problem,
and that point, that's a good point. That we should not let them off. And I don't think if somebody said that, I don't think we meant that, because I know full well that this is I'm trying to think back through what the other Patrick said and what Pedro said. But quite honestly, this is a clear strategy by Donald Trump. I don't believe Donald Trump believes 90% of what he says. I think Donald Trump is an entertainer, and he is capitalizing on this opportunity for billions of dollars, maybe not billions, but probably when it's all said and done, probably $1.5 billion worth of free media to up his brand. Imagine this. Imagine the price that he can get just to put his name on things in the future after being the front runner for so long. And he'll come out later on and say, I wasn't serious about those things. I was just, this is how crazy America is. Then the flip side of it is, I don't think he realized he would get this much traction. And so now he might be looking at this and saying, I actually can be the president of the United States. All I have to do is keep saying the most offensive, racist, xenophobic, nationalistic thing imaginable, and the crown is mine. So I don't think he got in this seriously. I think he got in this just to build his brand. But now he has the opportunity to go all the way because of this creation. It's like he's just coming up. He's coming up and getting the spoils of war. The party that supports Donald Trump existed a long time before Donald Trump. Donald Trump was just nefariously smart enough to actually capitalize it. Caller, you're live on the air. What's your name, comment, and or question?
Is that me?
Yep, that's you. What's going on?
What's up, Dennis? This is Aaron.
Aaron, good to have you back on the show.
I just wanted to. So it's funny when you talked about how you said you're not afraid and you don't worry about a lot of the stuff. Like, have you like watched, I guess, like the mainstream media recently, or do you really watch it a lot?
I watch it. I do watch it sometimes. When you say mainstream, define mainstream.
I guess just like watching like CNN or Fox News or MSNBC and just like watching this like.
Yeah, no, I do. Unfortunately, I have to watch those a lot. I thought you meant like daytime, regular Today Show, but no, like Fox News. Unfortunately, I have to digest that on a regular basis. Go for it.
So So I was just gonna say, like, when I watch stuff like that and I realize how the media kind of spins things, I can understand how other people are afraid that aren't informed, because most people don't take the time to just go look up basic information, or not necessarily basic, but a lot of information. But like how they spin things kind of makes you afraid. Like if I didn't know what was going on in the world and I watched TV and all I know that was happening is that that there's just terrorist attacks from Muslims all over the place, and then I would be terrified, and then I would listen to a lot of what all the bloviating that a lot of the right wing people do, or you know, a lot of the Republican nominees do, and it would be a lot easier for me to believe them. And it's just kind of, it's kind of like the media kind of just takes advantage of people's ignorance, and it's really a shame. And I feel like that's why you can say like, well, I'm not afraid. I feel like that's because you're well informed. Because like take something like cars, right? If the media every day really just pushed out the statistics of how many people die in car crashes and stuff, you know, people would be terrified. You're like, we need to stop driving. Driving's terrible. It's an epidemic. You know what I mean? That's
a good point. Yeah. But that's a part. Thanks so much for the call. That's exactly a part of why they need that constant reinforcement that comes from outlets like CNN and Fox News, right? It's good for ratings. Let me tell you, let's just be real. Let's break this down. It's good for money. It is profitable. Fear and anger are just as, I can't say just as profitable, but they rival sex, right? Sex sells, yes, but fear and anger sell almost as well. Almost just as good. And if you want to be a reputable organization and you just don't want to go open a strip club or have a porn site, then open up an outrage porn site. That's what Fox News is, right? Fox News is outrage porn. It just keeps their voters angry, their viewers angry all day, every day. And then they finally realize around 2000, wow, we can do this also with fear. We can make them afraid. And so they just constantly reinforce this fear. And I'm like, you know, what is there to actually be afraid of more than what we have on an everyday basis? And this goes right into what I wanted to talk about with regard to the actual shooting. There is a possibility of a mass shooting happening in the United States every day because it happens every day in the United States. I don't think the victims really care what ideology led to them being killed. I think they just care that there was a mass shooting and now they're dead. And as coy as that statement is, the people of South Carolina who were gunned down by Dylan Roof, they are just as much a victim of extreme terrorism and gun violence in America as the people in San Bernardino. And so whatever the motivation is, it still leads to mass shootings. I'm trying to piece this together as I say it. I'm bound to say something wrong, but whatever. It is what it is. Here's the thing. America is the perfect target for this new type of terrorism. This is what President Obama was talking about last night. It's not the complicated plot like we saw in 9/11 anymore. It is the person who gets behind their computer and they look up ISIS or they look up the KKK. They look up Islamist extremism, and they look up these groups, these organizations, these nationalistic right-wing neo-Nazi hate groups here in the United States, and they get radicalized right behind their computer. Here's what makes it even more likely to happen in the United States is that they can go and get as many guns as they can afford or somebody can finance for them. They can get access to almost unlimited amounts of ammunition. And it goes underneath our radar because of our gun laws or the lack thereof. It can go completely underneath the radar. And so what can we do? What is today? Today is no different than last year with all of the gun violence, with all of the mass shootings, with people who were shooting up elementary schools because they were sexually frustrated or whatever the hell radicalized them. It led to a mass shooting. We have been underneath attack from mass shootings in the United States for a very long time. And this new breed of terrorism is the same breed of terrorism that has been here for a long time. So why be more afraid today than you were with all of these right-wing, extreme, crazy Christians going around blowing up Planned Parenthoods or getting angry and going and shooting up churches or feeling sexually deprived, and so they go and shoot up a college campus? This has been happening a long time. If you were not afraid of that, then why are you going to be more afraid of this when it is the exact same formula? There is nothing that we can do if we're not willing to do something about our gun laws. You know why? Because they are American citizens getting radicalized behind their computer. Some of them just happen to get radicalized by Islam. Others happen to get radicalized by Christianity and neo-Nazi right-wing extremism. But all of them have access to a limited amount of guns, an unlimited amount of ammunition, and an unlimited opportunity to cause mass terror. So why am I not afraid? Because we've been living underneath that kind of shit for a very long time. Caller, you're live on the air. What's your name, comment, and or question?
Yo, man, this is Will in New York. So you touched on really briefly, but I think the explanation for this, you said, I don't think Donald Trump believes most of what comes out of Donald Trump's mouth, right? So that's what led me to want to call in. I was going to take it easy and play some video games tonight, but I talk to Trump supporters on a daily basis. My town that I live in is rife with Trump supporters. And when you say, you know that Donald Trump wants to make them wear badges, put them on a registry, and throw them in camps, well, you know what? Donald Trump's a lot like me. He just says what he's thinking. He doesn't actually. They don't believe most of what he's saying is actually what he believes. And that's where the problem lies. So you have everything in life. Nothing's black and white. I mean, we've talked about that before. It's a social, like every social ideological construct is a spectrum, you know, from left to right. And what you have is these people that are maybe conservative or right wing that fall maybe somewhere a little farther right than most people were 40 years ago, so that would have been in the same position, but they're also not the ones that are going and shooting up places.
Right.
So there's a handful of these people that take this, I'm going to say whatever I want because you know what? I'm not politically correct.
Right.
I just say things when I think them. Yeah, just forgive the guy. He doesn't really mean that. Those people prop him up to the point that he's able to continue the hateful rhetoric, and the people that are further to the right than what they are hear this, and it festers and it boils and roils inside of them until eventually they just pop and go crazy. I mean, I think that's the main reason why the man is really successful right now is because you have all these people that are like, yeah, I'm sick of curbing my speech. I want to say queer. I have a guy I work with who called me on my day off one day, and he thinks it's funny to make gay jokes. And he doesn't, know a lot of my personal life because I keep that to myself. He called me up and said, hey, it's the, FAGGOT, I'm not going to say it, and then cocksucker after that. I got this around for you. Like, it was hilarious. Stuff like that. They don't understand that they can't do that. And the people in that middle age bracket that grew up in very conservative households during, the civil rights movement, where that was happening in cities and urban areas where they didn't see it and they just saw the news that led them to this is ridiculous.
Right.
And I think they grew up in that environment and they never left that environment. So they still kind of just BS, basically.
Right.
Do you think that's about what's going on?
Man, thanks so much for the call, Will. You had a great point in there. A great point that they've propped him up so long that he now he could just actually no. The things that you said that really resonated with me was the fact that they are excited that someone is saying publicly what they have believed and wanted to say for a long time privately. Right. They've said this. They believe this privately. They want it. This is how they feel. This is they've been frustrated because they can't say this type of thing. And so now they have somebody who is so politically incorrect. They just love it. I mean, there's nothing Donald Trump could say wrong. There's nothing wrong he could say bad. And I wonder if they realize, I know the party realizes this, but I wonder if they realize that their willingness and the fact that they hate political correctness because it's uncomfortable for them to have to check what they're saying, right? It's uncomfortable for them to not be a bigot. It's uncomfortable for them to get called out when they say something wrong. Like it's so casual for them. I've had people just casually call me a Negro at work before. Right. Back a couple of years ago, I've had people who just, and then they've like, oh, I'm sorry. That's kind of how I grew up. But they hate the fact that I call them on it. They hate the fact that they're corrected because it makes it uncomfortable for them. And so they envision a world, people who love Trump envision a world, not just Trump, just across the board. They envision a world where they can say anything and everything that they want to say, and no one ever called them on it. In actuality, they want this freedom so that they can seem tough. But in actuality, they're actually a bunch of spineless cowards because they can't back up what they say. They don't want to be criticized or called a bigot because it hurts their feelings. I'll unpack that a little bit more. Let me get this caller who's been so patient. Caller, you're live on the air. What's your name, comment, and or question?
Hey, talking to me?
Yeah, that's you. You're live. What's going on?
All right. Hi, Ben. It's Emily. I'm from Southeastern Mass. I think that it all pretty much like stems back to like this fear with the like people coming in and like gun control, all this. It just kind of goes back to people who don't like, it's not going to get fixed until we get people to understand. And I don't think that's going to happen for a while in this country because of that, like, as mentioned before, like the middle age, like higher in age bracket, they're just so stubborn and it's so hard to make them understand. But like, you can kind of sway younger people, but it's just going to take so much to get people to understand the other that it's just such a hard problem. I don't know how long it's going to take for us to fix it.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, actually, I want to agree with you so badly. I really want to agree with you. But I'm going to play this video. I want you to watch this video and tell me what you think after this video. All right. Thanks so much for the call. I want you guys, she was a perfect segue into what I want to play. She's discussing like we can't make these kinds of changes because they're old and stubborn. Well, here's Jerry Falwell Jr. Gotta find his video. Where's this video? Jerry Falwell Jr. at oh, come on. How the hell do I don't have to update Flash. The hell is Flash? Who even uses Flash anymore? But anyway, Jerry Falwell Jr. At Liberty University, a bunch of young conservatives, thousands upon thousands of young conservatives, he has been instilling, that university and others like it, they have been instilling into these kids for a very long time the ideology of guns and the sacredness of guns. And actually, in my ebook, if you go to benjamindixonshow.com and download the free chapter, you see I unpack it where he started this like in 2002, where they uphold the values of conservatism higher than how that conservatism conflicts with Christianity. They've created their entire religion. They've created an entirely different religion around conservative values, such as the right to bear arms and NRA and Ronald Reagan and all these things. So you can bear with me 1 second while I type this in and find it, because apparently I was Falwell Jr. guns and Muslims. But anyway, he just did a speech not too long ago where he said if more good people carried guns, concealed permits, then we could end these Islamist terrorists. You know, this is the president of a major university. I think they have like 40,000 people who attend this university, either in person or online. And it is a major staple in the conservative community. This is where you send your kids if you don't want them to get a liberalized education. Send them to Liberty University. So this one I'm going to play from. This one's coming from the Washington Post.
Thank you, Senator DeMint. We're so honored to have you here. Yeah. Before we did the community center there, and he told a story about no matter how well we're looking for a place to attend college.
Blah blah blah. This is the part.
If some of those people in that community center had what I've got in my back pocket right now, is it illegal to pull it out? I don't know. Is that
anyway? Because that shit's funny.
I've always thought if more good people had concealed carry permits, then we could end those Muslims before they go off trying to kill it. I just wanted to take this opportunity to encourage all of you to get your permit. We offer a free course.
Of course you do.
And let's teach them a lesson if they ever show up here. So,
wow. I want you to see all the thunderous applause, all of the just this is a university. Most of the people in the audience are young. They're passing down this hatred. They're passing down this ignorance. They're passing down this perversion, this fascination with guns, as if guns is the epitome of American freedom. I don't think that it's going to end even with the old generation dying out because of that, exactly that. This is a Christian university where this is not the first time he's done this. I want you to, if you go get that chapter and you'll see, I kind of documented 2 other occasions where he uses his platform every election cycle in order to forward conservative values, even to the detriment of Christianity, which is the university is open for. But then I just want you to look at how they cheered. I mean, thunderous applause to his thinly veiled threat against all of Islam. Then we could end those Islamist terrorists. I don't know. I think the only solution is for somebody like Donald Trump to win the nomination, but not the White House. He can't, we could never, he could never be allowed to get close to the White House, not so much because of who he is, because I think he is a caricature. I don't think he's real. I think he's playing a role, but because of the people that he inspires, those are the people that are the most dangerous. That 30% of the Republican base that support him no matter what, those are the people who are the most dangerous here in America. Caller, you're live on the air. What's your name, comment, and or question?
This is John from Louisiana.
John, what's going on, man?
What you just showed just sent me over the edge, and it reminded me of a discussion I was having on Facebook because of this stupid meme or whatever. It basically said that California banned assault weapon, and then how that worked out for them. And it was so stupid because, I mean, people that died. What are you doing? What are you talking about? So I was going back and forth with them. I said, okay, if somebody wants to commit an act of terror, they're going to do it when you're vulnerable. They're going to catch you by surprise. It's not like you're going to be able to do some Rambo shit or anything. At best, you'll be able to. Sorry about cussing, but
go for it, man.
At best, you'll be able to. Maybe protect yourself if you're lucky.
If you're lucky,
and that's really pushing it. But, you know, because I mean, this whole premise that if the good guys carry guns and bad guys, they'll stop the bad guys. It's not realistic,
right?
I mean, you could go anywhere. I mean, I have a gun, but it doesn't matter. I could just walk out my door or just be going to Burger King or somewhere, and then somebody do something crazy.
Right.
And I could get shot. That's what I'm saying. It's just foolery. It's just foolery. And that meme really got to me because people really trying to justify it since California is such a liberal state,
right,
quote unquote.
Right.
But and they would say people that just die. And you're out here, and I see so many people that I'm friends with, some of them, they are conservative, a lot of them. And it was only them, and they always posting that stuff like that. It just drives me crazy. There's no thought that goes into it. I'm sorry for my rant, man.
No problem, man. Hey,
it sent me over the edge.
It should. Thanks so much for the call, man. It should send you over the edge because it shows you where we are. I have Chris over in the chat room and the speaker saying that the speech was genuinely frightening to hear. And Bryce said that it's scary. It is very, very scary because this is what is rational and reasonable to them. The standard for rationality and reason has been shifted so far down the hole of stupiddom, right? Is that you can't even get a grasp on how imbecilic these people, not only stupid, right? You know, and then they get all sensitive when you call them stupid. So I'm going to be politically incorrect. You dumb, you idiotic people who cannot see the direct connection between the ease with which people who are angry, I don't care if they're angry at Islam, I don't care if they're angry because of Islam, and I don't care if they're angry because of racism. The ease with which people can get weapons and inflict pain in the United States of America makes us the perfect target for what ISIS is doing now. ISIS is just sitting back, taking credit for all of the angry people around the world. And what better place for angry people to get access to guns than the United States of America, the United States of America. So for them to not see that or see it and not care means that they are either the most ignorant people we have ever encountered on the face of the political earth, or they are the most nefarious in that they don't care. They don't care so long as the funds keep going to the NRA, so long as the funds keep going to the gun manufacturers. They don't care so long as the NRA keeps funneling money back to the RNC, to the Republican National Committee. They don't care so long as the NRA helps them maintain political power so that they can execute their trickle-down economic theory, which has still been perverting and damaging the United States for the last 40 years. They don't care how many people are going to die because of gun violence. Hell, they don't care how many people are going to die just because they can't even get access to health care. But forget about health care. They don't care how many people are going to die because of how easy crazy people, terrorists, hate-filled, radicalized by Islam, radicalized by Christianity, radicalized by racism. I don't care what you're radicalized by. The fact that you can get a gun in the United States and go kill people with easier than you can fly on a plane makes America the perfect target, but we've been the perfect target for a long time. We have lived underneath the constant looming threat of mass shootings because that's just what we do in America. And now all of a sudden, because the mass shootings are being perpetrated by people who are radicalized by Islam and not people who are radicalized by right-wing fascism, now all of a sudden, we want to start calling it domestic terrorism. We want to identify it as terrorism when it has been terrorism all along. And to go one step further, I'm not done yet. To go one step further, these same people who can stand and cheer and applaud Jerry Falwell saying that we need to end all of these Muslim terrorists. These same people who can cheer and applaud Donald Trump saying that we're going to shut down immigration from into the United States, and then shut down. He said, somebody sent me the article that he believes Bill Gates can shut down portions of the internet. You know, the same people who are standing up and applauding this genuinely believe that right-wing conservatism is incapable of fascism. And the only people who are capable of dictatorial, authoritarian fascism or communism are those of us on the left. In other words, the only people who can ever be bad are liberals, despite their standing and applauding violent, thinly veiled threats against an entire religion, against an entire group of people, against every other type of minority. I mean, who has Donald Trump not offended? Who has Donald Trump not made the target of his racist, xenophobic, bigoted rants? And so here they are standing and applauding and cheering Donald Trump, swearing that the only people who are fascist are people like you and me. The people who are politically correct enough to say, no, Donald Trump, you will not get away with saying stuff like this. We apparently only us. We're the fascists. We're the authoritarians. We're the people who are going to create a dictatorship. Not the man who says we need to shut down portions of the internet. Not the man who says we need to close our borders to an entire religion. We need to not the man who makes fun of handicapped people. Not the man who makes fun of gays. Not the man who makes fun of minorities and women. Not him. Not the ideology that allows him to be the front runner. not the ideology for the last 50 years that has made an enemy of anyone who is not a white Christian man. No, not the only people who could possibly be dictatorial and fascist are liberals, while they stand and applaud. A man like Donald Trump. I'm not even going to use any other pejoratives. I'm not going to Donald Trump, because now Donald Trump is the pejorative. Donald Trump is synonymous with all of the things that are detrimental to liberty, all the things that are detrimental to the Constitution, to our freedoms here in the United States. They would run into the arms. This is, and Bryce, Bryce over in Spreaker, he said something, he said early on, he said, I wonder how much of this is because of their hatred or racism towards President Obama. How much of this is made possible expressly because of President Obama being in the White House. And I'm going to be honest with you. I think there was a mental breakdown in 2008. I think they had a mental breakdown where they could not believe America was something bigger than white Christian men. I want to play it. Hang on. Let's see if I can find it. Yeah, there it is. Come on, Bill O'Reilly. Don't let me down. He'll come in a minute. He'll say it whenever he's ready. They were so terrified of America being something bigger than their ideology, something bigger than what they were used to, something bigger than what they've seen all their lives, that they had some type of mental breakdown. So much so that now they're running willingly and happily into the arms of the greatest example of fascism that we've had publicly in a very long time. I can't, I'm thinking hard, I'm thinking fast. I cannot think of another example of blatant fascism in a very long time. They're running headlong into that relationship because of how much they hate President Obama and how much they hate anything that's not a part of the status quo. And apparently I don't have the right file loaded up. But Bill O'Reilly defined the status quo as America being run by white Christian men. All right. Since that doesn't want to play, let me see if something else will play here. Yeah, okay. I thought maybe something was wrong with my gear. Folks, I don't have access. I don't know why I don't have access to the YouTube chat tonight. So I can't see any of your comments there. But apparently it's going on. A lot of people over there chatting. I do have a lot of folks over in, well, I have a couple people over in Spreaker who are commenting. I want you guys to give the thumbs up wherever you are, especially over there on Spreaker. I get kind of lonely over there with my likes. I only get a few likes because not many people use that app, or most people use it and then just give it a thumbs up. Follow me on Twitter at the BPD show. Actually, wait a minute. I have comments. I have the chat room now. I have the chat room and I have another caller on hold. So I want to grab a couple of comments in here. Josh Bryan says Ben Dixon is a racist. Well, Josh, please call in 857-600-0518. Let's see if this is you, Josh. Caller, you're live on the air. What's your name, comment, and or question?
Hey, this is Craig again.
Yes, I can hear you great.
Yes, buddy. Listen, something I noticed, the Time Magazine poll for Man of the Year, Bernie won, but they didn't even take him as one of the top 8.
Right. You know what? Thank you for reminding me of that. I've been meaning to talk about that. That's in my my Spreaker list. What are your thoughts on it? I have a lot of thoughts on it, but go ahead and give me a couple seconds of your thoughts.
Well, they did take Donald Trump, who came in like 12th or 14th or something like that. So I don't know. It looks like it's rigged to me.
Yeah. So, thanks for reminding me of that. Let me talk about that for a few minutes before I go off the air.
Go ahead. One thing real quick. I think it'd be a good idea for all of us to go when we're shopping or whatever, find the Time magazines, turn them over sideways, drop them in the back of the rack.
Hey, I hear
These
you.
people are struggling to get by anyway. We can put them out of business.
I hear you. I hear you. Thanks so much for the call, man. Thanks for the call.
All right, bye.
And actually, he's talking about the Time Magazine article here. Time snubs Bernie Sanders for Person of the Year after he crushes the readers' poll. So they had a readers vote for the Person of the Year. Bernie Sanders got 10.2%. The next person in line was Malala Yousafzai. I can never pronounce her last name. An amazing woman. Pope Francis was next. President Obama, Stephen Colbert, the refugees, Syrian refugees. So this is where but Bernie Sanders had 10.2%. The closest person after him was 5.2%, which was Malala, and he didn't even make the short list. Now, some people are pointing out the fact that Hillary Clinton owns shares in Time Magazine. I don't know, like, I don't how many shares, right? Because I own shares of a couple of companies, and it's not enough for me to make any decision based on it. So if she owns like the leading minority share, then okay, right? So but it just goes to show you, that shit happens. You know, I have to unpack this a little more. I think they feel as though Bernie Sanders' fans are all online, and so that they could I don't know what justification they could give this, but what they have done is they have unleashed a lot of people. They've shown that they didn't care about their own poll. That's what they've done. They've shown they don't care about their own poll. So why even do the poll? Because the poll has now made a lot of people upset because you took the number one person and said, could this be some of Hillary Clinton's doing? Possibly. I mean, I've seen, and the reason I say possibly is because I've seen the media be in the tank for Hillary Clinton, like unbelievably so. Unbelievably so, with few exceptions. I mean, there's one or two outlets that liberal online outlets that are pretty even. They'll put out a great article on Bernie and they'll put out a great article on Hillary. They'll go back and forth. But most online media outlets and most regular television media outlets are almost solidly in the tank for Hillary Clinton. So I don't know the relationship she has with Time Magazine, if any. The only justification I could give them is if they say that we have to wait Bernie Sanders's results because the majority of Bernie Sanders supporters are online, whereas Malala supporters may not all be online. I don't think that's a valid reason, but I believe that's what they're going to try to say. So we have to wait. Let's see how this plays out. But I wasn't going to buy it anyway. Just to tell you the honest truth, I wasn't buying it. I mean, maybe I would have bought it if, well, anyway, I'll leave that alone. All right, let me read some comments in the chat room. Bernie. Yes. Oh, so my phone line is expressly open for Josh, 857-600-0518. Billy Cruzen, Donald Trump is the only candidate that really wants to turn the economy around and lower crime rates. What have the other politicians done so far? So my phone lines are open again for Billy, 857-600-0518. Donald Trump has not presented one single coherent plan. And this is where you guys are, this is where you guys are imbeciles, because you're just as ignorant as those preachers that endorse Donald Trump, because Donald Trump says to you, I want to make America great again. And you're like, all right, make America great again. He says, I'm going to turn the economy around. Say, Donald Trump, he wants to turn the economy around. How? What policy? What tangible policy? I guarantee you, without Googling, not a single Donald Trump supporter can tell me why or how he's going to accomplish anything that he says he's going to accomplish. But you take it on good measure. You take it on good faith that he's going to make America great again. Well, you know what? Anyway, whatever. Let's read some more comments. Moving on. Let's read some more. Kinnock said, I'm loving this show. It makes a lot of sense to me. It makes sense to me too, Kinnock. Thanks for joining us, man. I appreciate it. And where'd my applause go? Where did my applause line? What's up with my gear tonight? Does anybody know? I mean, I guess I can figure it out. I guess I'm just lazy. Like I keep getting these pop-ups to upgrade to Windows 10, and it's messing me up in the middle of my show. I don't want Windows 10. One more comment, and then I'm gonna get out of here because I actually have to cook dinner for tomorrow. I'm saying freedom of speech is an American right. White folks killing each other. Right? Okay. A lot of things are going on. Yeah, Ben Dixon is a racist. So Josh, I would keep the show going just for you. 857-600-0518. Michael Solomon, what's going on, man? Good to see you. Todd Hamlin, thanks for joining us in the room. Listen, I want to thank who is Ben's candidate of choice right now? Who is Ben's candidate of choice right now? You know what? Let me say this. I want to make sure, because this is the only place I kind of part ways with Feel the Burn. If you know my politics, you know who I support. But I only support him because he supports my politics. He supports the things that I believe are best for America. He supports the things that are actually going to concretely change America. Like he has an actual plan that is going to change America from the status quo back to the days of Eisenhower in terms of basic, not even Eisenhower, right? His tax plan, and I'm talking about Bernie Sanders and his tax plan for free college, for universal health care. We're talking about policies that are not even as progressive as Eisenhower, the Republican. This is the absurdity. This is one last thing. I have to talk about one last thing, guys, because that question reminded me of an argument that I've been having all over the weekend. People are trying to label Bernie Sanders as some type of socialist in the, oh my God, socialism, communism, fascism, Maoism. When in actuality, Bernie Sanders is further to the right than Dwight Eisenhower. I want you to understand how far to the right we've gone. Eisenhower would be labeled a Marxist right now today. Matter of fact, Ronald Reagan would be labeled too progressive to run for this modern Republican Party. But in the midst of this pervasive shift to the right, somehow we've convinced ourselves that what was good for America after the Depression, after World War II, what was good for America that actually built the middle class, everything that built the middle class in America is somehow socialism. Somehow socialism in a pejorative sense as a command economy. They don't even, and I don't even, somebody just text me saying that you're trying to talk rationality with irrational to people who are irrational, but I can't help it. That's just a bad habit of mine. We are dealing with people who don't even know the difference between a command economy and social safety nets. People who now, and I know I'm not giving an excuse to the Republican Party because they know exactly what they're doing, but the people that they are fooling, that they are fooling believes that if we do anything other than what a conservative says do, that it is socialism, communism, fascism, Maoism, Leninism. And so clearly a person like Bernie Sanders, who is saying we need to undo what Ronald Reagan did so that we can rebuild the middle class, so that we can get more money, get more things for our tax dollars, the taxes that we're putting into this economy, we can get more out of it that is going to be beneficial not only to the middle class, but beneficial to the entire economy. A statement like that to people with these warped minds is equivalent to socialism, communism, fascism, Maoism, Leninism. But the argument that I've been having over the weekend has been with Hillary Clinton supporters who also engage in calling Bernie Sanders a socialist, a communist, that his policies are too extreme. That shows you how far to the right we've gone when the party that's ostensibly progressive is now calling right-wing conservative 1945 to 1950 economic policies left-wing socialism. That's how far to the right we've gone. That progressives, not even progressives, that Democrats going underneath the moniker of progressivism are attacking Bernie Sanders on issues that we have agreed on for a very long time. Universal health care. On calling him a socialist because he wants to make higher education free, when times have changed so much that a college degree, a bachelor's degree, is equivalent to high school, to a high school diploma. So yes, it should be free. But we have Democrats who are pushing us further to the right just to justify the existence and the campaign of Hillary Clinton. And perhaps the only saving grace for this party, for the Democrats, is the fact that you have on the other side of the equation Donald Trump. I don't even have to add a pejorative. I don't even have to add a pejorative in front of that. It just Donald Trump. That's all I have to say. That may be the only saving grace, because you have the majority, you have quite a few people who support progressive values. And this is going back full circle to what I started this whole thing off. I don't support Bernie Sanders because I'm just a fan of, I'm not really a fan of any politician, right? Be honest with you. I don't run behind anybody. I support Bernie Sanders's economic plans. I support his social plans. I support what he stands for, because he stands for what I stands for. It's been a long night. He stands for what I stand for. If he didn't, I would no more support him than I support Hillary Clinton. And I think that's the difference between me and Hillary bots. They will support Hillary Clinton no matter what she says, just like the Donald Trump bots. They will support Donald Trump no matter what he says. Regardless, it does not matter that some of the things that Donald Trump says are actually further to the left. But they'll run behind Donald Trump because they're sycophants. They're fans of Donald Trump. I'm not a fan of any politician. I'm lying. I'm kind of crushing on Elizabeth Warren. I've been crushing on her for a long time. I don't know. She just reminds me of my third grade teacher. And she's a progressive. But if she turns out not to be a progressive, then I've got no love for her either. So if you're a progressive, I support you. And you tell me who's a progressive candidate in this election. Caller, I'm staying over the air just for you. What's your name, comment, and or question?
Yo, it's Will again, man. And not drinking tonight, but I'm seeing chat, and it's reminding me, and it's something that has not been touched upon by anybody. The greatest successes that I have in he's a socialist argument that people give me for Bernie Sanders is, do you understand how the marginal tax rate works?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so here's how our tax system works in America currently. If you make up to $20,000 a year, you pay X percent of income tax. Over $20,000, but under $50,000, you pay a little bit higher on dollars made after that first $20,000. So when you get to $50,000, you then pay a percentage on dollars made after that.
Right.
And it keeps going up and up. And before Ronald Reagan removed the highest marginal tax rates, which were dollars earned after you made millions of dollars.
It was like 76%, I believe.
It was a lot. So these people, Fox News sells them this story that taxes are going to go up on everybody. But the reality of it is that taxes are going to go up only after your millionth dollar made for that year. So under this tax plan, where you actually tax the rich and you close the corporate tax loopholes and all the things that Bernie Sanders wants to do, you know what? We already have democratic socialism. And to speak to your public education point when it comes to college, we already currently spend about $65 billion a year subsidizing the student loan programs and grant programs and all these other things. We already spend about $65 billion on 4 years of tuition. It would cost $63 billion to give everyone that's graduating high school 4 years of tuition-free college.
Right.
Bernie Sanders will actually probably lower my tax rates as a middle-class American. And on those dollars that are made above and beyond, like $1 million or even $5 million, because there's no raise. You make $219,000. Anything after that, it stays at 39% now because of Ronald Reagan.
Right.
And they're sold this socialism story. And I'm sorry, I know you got to go to dinner, but that's been my greatest success, is to just explain how our tax system works. Because
Let me ask you this,
90%
though.
of the people in this country have no freaking clue how it works.
Let me ask
So
you this. Does it actually, you actually convert people with that conversation? You not necessarily to convert them, but you convince them that it's not actually socialism?
Yes, absolutely. That's been the selling point. They don't understand how the tax system works, and that's why they're sold socialism. Well, my taxes are going to go up to 90%, and I make 70 grand a year, and I want to keep my money. That's their whole. That's the fear that they're sold.
And that's
so, yeah, I have had some success.
Thanks so much for that call, but that's exactly the level of ignorance that they need to keep us in order to sell these ideas. So I was going to go off and say that you know, you're guilty like me. You're trying to be rational with irrational people. But maybe we just have to keep trying. Maybe we just have to keep trying, because it's not even only on Bernie Sanders, not only on economic policy in general, just across the board. Maybe we just have to keep trying. I don't know. What do you think? I mean, I've never seen such a big bunch of babies, though, right? Like they want to come at us. They want to come at us full-throated, full bigoted. You're being politically correct. Let me be politically incorrect. And then you tell them that they're dumb, and all of a sudden they're like, oh, you're so rude. You don't have to be this mean. You wouldn't believe how many conservatives I've converted into wimps simply by giving them exactly what they give me. But maybe the solution is, maybe we need to put on our soft gloves. Maybe we need to coddle them and lead them along the way and let them know you're not really dumb. You're just poorly misinformed. So let me inform you. I don't know if my heart is that kind. It is. It really is. Sometimes I like to pretend I'm an asshole. All right, folks. As you can tell, my energy meter is down, and I've got to get out of here. See you next time.
The Benjamin Dixon Show is only possible with listener support. Go to www.thebenjamindixonshow.com to register for our blog, join the Progressive Army, and support The Benjamin Dixon Show.
Crazy mother.
If you like this episode, be sure to share, like, and subscribe.
Consider becoming a Patreon. Go to www.patreon.com/The BPD Show and support The Benjamin Dixon Show.
Man, I love that closing music. I got to play it again. Hold on, folks. Not that one.
The Benjamin Dixon Show is only possible with listener support.
Skip to that.
Go to www.thebenjamindixonshow.com to register for our blog, join the Progressive Army, and support The Benjamin Dixon Show.
Right here.
Crazy mother.
If you like this episode, be sure to share, like, and subscribe.
Folks, I want you to go to on Twitter, look up Otis McDonald. He's the guy who makes all the music that I use on my show. Everything that I've used has been done by Otis McDonald. That track was so good night. Good night, folks.